Hey guys, Stealth17 here, back with the 8th episode of the Busan Pocket campaign in Wargame Red Dragon. We have two battles planned. We have one in Cheorwon against a tank battalion, but this tank battalion doesn't have any logistics units, so this tank battalion cannot attack any of my forces. However, since they are here, the battle will seemingly take place, and that means that all of these initiative points are going to be lost, so I cannot take Sock-Cho in this turn. Let's first get Cheorwon out of the way. See, they don't have any logistics units, all they have is scout units. So when I click launch battle, it says the enemy stopped because they decided to surrender. Now this is quite unfortunate because this means that I cannot use any of these units which were involved here to take Sock-Cho. So I'm not sure that the total victory I had in mind is still going to be possible. But we first have to worry about Seoul, which is getting attacked by a tank regiment. This tank regiment is going to be a little better than what we've seen thus far, in the sense that they have a T-72M, a couple of Strelas and Shilkas, and some support units, or logistics units. We have a couple of M60A1s. They're not going to be that much of a threat against these tanks. So what I want to do is send my Hornet group to support these guys. Now what we're lacking here is recon, but they have the same problem. So what I can do is call in some other units and see if they have any useful recon options. I have an artillery convoy, I have a sea attack convoy or a sea attack squadron comprised of Seahawks and 2 scout cobras, so this could come in very handy. And I can call in a marine regiment. Now these guys have their own scouts in the form of LAV scouts, and they have a lot of infantry and anti-air units, and I can use these against the tanks as well. I have 55 points in reserve, so I'm going to deploy the marines on the coast, and I'm going to disembark them into Seoul. I might as well call in these attack choppers because we have too many points anyway. And I could call in the seaplanes, but since these units don't have any radar guidance, it wouldn't make sense to go after them with a seaplane because it's not going to target them anyway. Now let's see what kind of map we're going to be facing here. We've been here before. All they have is the sector to Yunnan. We got all of the surrounding sectors, but we don't have that many command infantry or command vehicles to capture them all. We do have marines, and that means that we can use an Oliver Hazard parry into Naval Sector Bravo. But I'm not going to capture this because it's not as important, since the enemy is going to be coming from here and possibly push into Cheorwon and Sandang and Bravo. So you can see they only have support units and tanks, no infantry, so that means that I'm going to be master and commander of any of these urban areas. As you can see, we have plenty of opportunity to deploy the units, and they got a lot of bottlenecks to go through. Right here we got this bridge, if they want to cross into Sandang. To Cheorwon we got another bridge. Here's another bridge. And this is the only wide front that they have available. So this is going to be where I'm going to set up my marines. And I have 8 small launchers to do that. Now these smalls have little range in the sense that they only go up to 875. So a tank with a range of 2100 or 2275 is going to outrange this thing incredibly much. What I want to do is set up these guys a little bit behind the other buildings so that the tanks have to close in. And this way I can make sure that the tanks have to get close to me, get in range before they can take out my infantry. I'm going to deploy my command infantry in this sector as far back as I can because it does give me 6 command points. I have helicopters, the Seahawks, but I do not know how many Shilkas are going to be out here. What I also have are these STRB-90H. These come with 8 Hellfires each. And we can deploy these from the naval sector, send them up the river and deal with any tanks. So I'm going to call in 4 of these. I don't know how many opportunities they're going to get to fire their missiles, so I'm not going to call in an LCU right away. It's too early for that. This is another town I could defend. I could put some small units in this town up here, this building block. But when a tank comes over, it's not going to be in range of the smalls, while the tank itself can fire. But I'm going to put them here anyway, because the tanks don't have any recon units, so they're pretty blind against, or to see what I'm going to be up against. Now, I want a recon chopper up here. I want some marines as backup on this sector. And over here, I want to make sure that they are not going to be able to capture Cheorwon, which is also a recent reinforcement zone of mine. So I'm going to put a couple of marines in these forests and use them as jungle fighters. I'm going to call in one Hornet to see what I can find, and 2 Seahawk helicopters. Actually, I'm going to hold off on the Seahawks for now. I want some more smalls up here. And some more marines. Now let's see. Actually, this is not a good setup. I don't need an FOB right now, and I can use those points to capture either of these zones with a command infantry unit. And I have to capture one of these zones to make sure that I can call in reinforcements and air support. One group of marines to support them, and this is going to be the attack wave. So let's see how this plays out. As you can see, we got a lot of the anti-air units up here, and they're already going after my Cobra. So much for that Cobra.
Someone called for a cab?
We found a command vehicle, but with this many anti-air units I'm not going to send it in. Although, if this is their only command unit, it could be worth it.
Where do you need us, sir?
Attack move my riverboats. Have these guys come in, and there's another command vehicle out here, but he's retreating with the Shilkas. Hornet took out 2 of these tanks, and now the Marines are going to do some battering. Now, this match we don't have to get this many points, we only have to kill 600 worth of points. And what I want to try to do is take out as many targets as possible here, particularly in the form of tanks. Over here we have the riverboats, which are now engaging all of these units, which are probably support units from the looks of it. And out here this might be a command vehicle. So let's send the Marines after them. Yep, this is a command vehicle. So right now I'm using the grenade launchers from these LTVPs or LVTPs to make sure that this thing dies very quickly. Now this is bad news, they took out all of these units in here. So I'm going to have to put in some helicopters to put a stop to that. Let's call in another couple of air units. only a couple points left. These things are out of missiles, all of them. But that's okay, they did their job. And that's the match. We took out all of their Shilka units, we took out 12 of their tanks, so they have very little units left. And right now we can focus on getting the actual victory in Sock-Cho in the next turn. These units have fought, so they can't be moved, and we don't have any attacks coming up on the south, so we don't have to focus ourselves there. Now we have another incursion of their forces into this sector of Yun-Chang. Again, one command infantry here. Some infantry units, some supports, some recons and some vehicles, but no tanks anymore. So this means that our attack helicopters should have a pretty easy job so long as they don't run into the Shilkas. And we can use the vehicles, as in the tanks that we have available, to make sure that these vehicles are going down pretty quickly. Let's set up our defenses again. This time I'm going on the attack, so I'm going to take a couple of these K1s. I already know that they don't have any air groups available anymore, so this means that I have free play with my tanks. They do have some vehicles, some anti-tank vehicles, but I'm not too worried about those. They're not that damaging, and hopefully my choppers can take them out before they get here. Okay, not too large of a setup this time. So I'm going to attack move these units, these guys, and put these guys on fast move onto these crossroads. I want my attack chopper to get a little closer, I want my scout chopper to get closer, and these units to move up. Now these groups of M36s, which come in 4s, are not that vulnerable or that valuable. They're only 10 apiece. So these things will earn themselves back very quickly, usually by firing 1 or 2 shots. So if I lose any of these, I'm not too worried about it. That's one Shilka down. Second Shilka. I do need more vision right now, so I'm sending my scout chopper up. Right now they did bring in a chopper, but it seems to be unarmed. And we took out their command infantry, finally, because this means that they can no longer attack in the south, because they don't have any infantry or command capability anymore. So that's that defense going on. Over here we have another assault in Yongdek, this time with Shilkas, tank regiments, artillery convoys, armored regiment of our own. The fighters are still here. And we have an anti-air convoy. Now last time we took quite a pounding in this sector. We lost a couple of K1s. So I want to play a little more careful this time. Make sure that we have our own fighters to protect against their fighters and their Su-25Ks. Use the F4ESs to defend against these vehicles. The F4DSs are going to make bombing runs like we did last time, and we can now use the helicopters a bit more in a bigger role, because shellcars don't really have a lot of range, autonomy of 350, and we can make sure that they don't get in range of our helicopters. So let's focus our forces on Yongdeck. Same old on this map. We got Daegu and Busan, and they're going in from Yuljin. This time I'm going to put some seals in these buildings, because last couple of times we've seen that they push up with their tanks here, they take a turn to their left and hide behind these buildings to cover from our tanks. This time I want to put a stop to that by using some seals here, which can push up through these buildings and attack them with their Carl Gustav launchers. Over here I want to put one of these scout units into the mountains again. I'm going to have one fighter of the expensive variety on standby and 2 attack fighters. We still need to put some recon up here, so I'm going to take a K111. And the next thing we need to do is put some tanks in here to make sure that we have this ridgeline defended. Not a moment too soon, we got a lot of units coming in here. And these are pretty hefty tanks, so we have gotta try to take out these guys using the F4ESs. Now they took out our eyes in this sector. But they still gotta go all the way around. There's one entrance here, and they're taking it, unfortunately. Now they know where my command chopper is at this point. I really didn't think this defense through this time. But he can attack me so long as I'm on the ground, so they gotta wait for their tanks to actually move up and take my helicopter out. Until they call in some bombers. And they finally took out the command chopper here, which is bad news for us, because it means we can no longer call in reinforcements from here and that our FOB is quite threatened. Interestingly, they have a command vehicle here, so I'm going to try to get that as the last act of my tank. And let's also call in an F4ES to help with that. Here comes an Su-27, which seems to be taking a bombing run at this tank, but not doing a very good job at it, and we took it down. Here comes a MiG. But we don't have any air assets right now, so we don't need to be worried about him. We do know that they have artillery. I'm going to pinpoint it now. Somewhere here. Over here. And another one which seems to be on the edge of this sector. Right about there. Actually, a little further to the east. There. So I'm going to save up for an F4DS. Make it a veteran because that also increases its survivability. And try to use it to skirt around and take out these units here. Okay, hopefully we can avoid their anti-air defense at this point. Because we do know that they have a lot of Shokas available. And MiGs. There goes the fighter, but hopefully we took out some of the artillery. Turns out we didn't. But my tank still took out a target, so we won the game. Now, while this wasn't that good of a victory, although it said total victory, I'm not really happy with the result because we lost this sector. We did take all of their Strelas out, and they only have one Pongay left, 4 Shokas, and some artillery. They only have 4 tanks left, so this battle group is almost over. Now, unfortunately, we're once again being attacked by whatever remains of this tank regiment in Seoul and in Cheorwon, which means that again we cannot push into Sock-Cho. So let's get Cheorwon out of the way. This time the enemy didn't retreat their forces, but they already disappeared. So right now we can attack Sock-Cho here. We don't have that many units available. I can send in my Marines regiment, which has 3 initiative points, which means that if it arrives, or when it arrives, it can also attack. I have an armored battalion of Abrams here. They have only 2 initiative points, so I cannot use these guys to attack. Same goes for this armored battalion, and I got my helicopters. Now this means that we got to be pretty careful about attacking these guys. It can be done, so let's see how this is going to turn out. First though, I want to take out Seoul here, because that means that my planes can much safer reach the other side. I'm not going to use my F-18s in this match, because there's only 4 tanks remaining on their team. A couple of Strelas and a couple of CVs, so I'm not too worried. What I could do is send my Seahawks to take out, or to help over here. Which could be a good idea, since there's also 272Ms here and only 4 of them on this side. And these guys can be overwhelmed by my AOSs. So I'm going to send this group over here. Now we're going to play out Seoul. This time though we do not have any air support. Which means that we got to be pretty careful on how we take out these tanks. I don't think I'm going to need an FOB in this turn. I will, however, need a zone to reinforce my units. Now they only have 4 units left, so I'm going to push into their sector. I know that these guys aren't the best against T-72s, but they can still do the job. And I can use some scouts behind them. Put in a command tank in the most expensive zone, which is over here. And again do the trick with the ships over here to scout up the waters. Now this is interesting, they put some fuel vehicles on the front of their lines. Put these units on command or attack move and have these M60s go in. We're getting a slugfest here with M60s versus T-72s. And they've cleared out of Yunnan, which means that their CV is on the move. It seems that they've put a CV in Bravo, which is an interesting decision because it means that they've put it somewhere on the outskirts here. They don't have any command infantry, so I think that every once in a while we're catching a glimpse of this CV out here. I'm having everything on attack move here, so that once it finds a target it can attack it right away. Don't think I'm going to get the CV, but I'm at least going to get enough points to get this battle over with very quickly.
Just spit it out. Good scout is one you don't see. At the ready, sir.
Now they've taken out my command tank, which is unfortunate, but I can miss it.
Spotted something? Just spit it out. We're sweeping this area.
Let's spread out the ships, make sure that they got hellfire coverage all over the field here. Mind you, these things are very, very fast.
Off the ball.
They go 40 or 32 knots in the water, which comes about 50 kph. Finally took out another command tank, which means that this tank regiment is finished. So that's Seoul done. Now we can send the Hornets to this sector, put some Prowlers behind them, or at least I'd like to, but since the Prowlers don't have that much range, they cannot support this battle right now. So what I need to do is move them here, press assign, so that possibly they can be used next match, although I'm really hoping there's not going to be a next match and that I can get a good victory this time. So let's get into the final battle. This is going to be quite tough because there's a lot of different vehicles here, and we're going to have to be quite precise about how we take this on. As you can see, we're coming in here from Cheorwon. They got all of the other zones in here. They have a multitude of units, 2 command vehicles in the form of command infantry, 6 command tanks, a whole lot of infantry. They got Shilkas, Pongays, Strelas, so air defense is very good. A lot of T-62s and T-72s, recon units, ATS-103 ground attack units and helicopters. So we have to be very, very careful. What we do need to do here is get a total victory, because once we do, we can finish this campaign off. Now the defense here is going to be imperative, but these buildings are on the edge of a cliff, which means that they can fire out to here, but once a unit gets over here, it's not going to be seen. It can only be attacked once they're up here, which is actually good news, because that means that our marines can possibly shoot them in the sides. Don't have that many smalls left anyway. What I want to do is make this a battle which is all about my helicopters. So I want to have one of these Cobras up. This is going to be the spotter on this side, spotter on that side. We got air support, and these guys have a much better survivability than the helicopters. So I'm going to have 2 of these on standby, and have 2 of the standard Sea Cobras on standby. Actually, we can do that a bit later. We need some anti-air, because there's a lot of helicopters they can call in. And now we still have the points for 1 Sea Cobra. So let's see what they're going to be sending towards us.
Where do you need us, sir?
Unload all of these marines.
Okay.
And here we can see a Strela right away. Now the problem with this map is that I have 0 income, which means that I cannot call in any other units other than the ones I have now. So I'm going to either have to move up my infantry, my command infantry, all the way to one of these zones which have another supply zone, or I'm going to have to make do with what I have. Neither of which are very promising prospects.
Brace yourself, we're flying in. I need the tail rotor check.
This looks like Strelas to me, and I do not want to lose this Cobra, but I lost it anyway.
Heading to giving grid reference. I need the tail rotor.
Now I can continue scouting onto Sea Cobra, but it has poor optics, so the chance of it getting seen and shot down are way too high.
Flying in. Let's hope the
I'm
enemy
going to
don't
speed
have
this
any
match up a bit because I want them to come to us.
Let's fly.
Switch it to very fast. Now here come the air units. This is a scout chopper and hopefully it's going to be in range of my Avengers.
Anything for us, sir?
And the Avenger took it out.
Anything for us, sir?
There's some vehicles here moving up, but I cannot really be sure what they are. They appear to be T-62s.
The captain and his crew welcome you aboard.
Let's do a run on these guys with an F-18. These guys are really taking a lot of fire, so we have to be careful on the air assaults here.
The captain and his crew welcome you aboard.
Got some more vehicles coming in here, which are BTRs, so this is infantry.
Where do you need us, sir?
Now these tanks here are popping in and out of view, so I'm going to disable the tow on my Sea Cobra so that they're not wasting missiles.
Let's fly.
And it seems that these guys are moving to the left, which is good news for us, because that way they're moving out of the range of their anti-air umbrella.
The captain and his crew welcome you aboard.
So I want to try to get some of these T-62Ds. Seeing as they're still cheap, they might as well go down. T-72M's coming up.
On my way to coordinates. Out.
Speed the game up a bit. I don't think this is going to be a total victory.
Don't have any air defense.
Okay, here we go. Let's send out the F-18 against the T-72s. Fire 2 and get out. Now I can enable the tows. This Scout Cobra is now empty except for its grenade launcher, which is not really effective against tanks, but it can stun them.
Ready to go.
Okay, this Cobra is now empty except for the Vulcan, so I'm going to send it to the FOB.
What can the infantry do for you, sir?
Move up the smalls as the Marines take some replenishments.
Checklist completed. Ready to go.
Send out another F-18 to take out these two T-72Ms. Not sure what this guy was doing, but he's utterly inaccurate. We do know that there's a Pongay launcher or two over there. Now I want to lure these guys into my town so I can take them out a lot easier. Send the chopper back up. And at this point those BTRs are going to be in range to deal with my attack helicopters.
Ready to go. Not my war.
I'm going to really micromanage this Cobra to make sure that it uses the right weapons against the right vehicles. Missiles in the form of tow missiles against units such as tanks, and the Hydras against everything else.
Platoon is formed and ready.
Still 1800 points to go.
Where do you need us, sir?
Now these ATS-103s aren't really expensive, but they're 30 points each. So hopefully my Hornet can get both of them. Took out one of them. Didn't get attacked, so the Pongays might be empty. Took it out. Pongays are not empty because this thing is still taking fire, and this time from over here. So that might be the second artillery battery or anti-air battery.
Someone need a guardian angel?
Helicopter replenished. Repair my marines and the smalls.
Formed and ready. Sir, yes, sir. The captain and his crew welcome
Speed the
you
game up a bit because this isn't really too interesting to watch.
Always comes down to the
Although you can
infantryman
show,
and his
or you can see how I'm using only the units I have to put up a solid defense without being able to call in any more reinforcements.
right. It always comes down to the infantryman and his rifle.
Looks like we got some more T-72s coming in.
Checklist completed. Ready to go.
Fire up the toes. Hopefully get a side shot on this T-72M.
I need that tail rotor here.
There's another one down. I can not use my F-18s right now because there's 3 Shilkas here.
Where do you need us, sir? Someone need a guardian angel?
Hopefully we can safely move up these smalls to take out this T-72M.
Shy is off.
And he's out. Marines took a pounding again. Sea Cobra's empty. Resupply these.
Checklist completed.
This Cobra's operational again, so we can use this to scout.
Fly.
And we can see that there's quite a bit of units coming up. A few BTRs. Now the BTRs themselves aren't very interesting, but what's inside is probably special forces. And this is worrying, because we have 4 T-72s coming in from the flank. Hornet took out 2 of them. And I'm really going to need the Sea Cobra to take out a couple more of these. Send my marines to the flanks.
Not my war.
Switch these marines to the other building.
Starting to get dangerous. I need that tail rotor check.
Sea Cobra's almost empty and I have some breathing room, so I'm going to replenish these both.
If the enemy is in range, so are we.
Marines took some fire. Now, of course, I'm fighting against the AI in this match. I'm not fighting a human player, which would just smoke the area like the AI is doing, but then come in with a bomber. Or flying with a seaplane to see how much anti-AI I really have. Which is just about 0. I only have 2 Avengers. So if they'd send in a couple of napalm bombers, they could really easily flush me out of this town.
Platoon is formed and ready. Platoon is formed and ready.
The AI is just feeding us points right now. Got a couple of S5 helicopters coming in. These are armed with rocket pods, which could be a danger. Avenger spotted them and is working on them. It's 2 choppers down. 3rd chopper down. This thing's slightly out of range. He flies up and promptly gets dealt with. Now, for some reason the AI thinks it's a good idea to only pound this area with smoke. What I would have done is fire at them with standard mortar fire or artillery fire, because that way it's going to be much easier to take up a softened enemy.
Checklist completed. Ready to go. Where do you need us, sir?
I'm thinking of hitting these shilkos with 2 18s. It's going to be tricky because these guys have a range of 24 or 1700 against planes, and I have a range of 3300. So maybe if we fly in from the side, we can make a side sweep on these guys and not take any fire.
Heading to given grid reference.
Unfortunately, it looks like these things are not having the angle of attack I'm liking to, so let's try to fly in another one. And it's going after these ATSs again. This time it got in range of the shilkas a little bit, and there's still the Pongays to deal with.
Checklist completed. Ready to go.
Some more tanks coming in.
If the enemy is in range, so are we. The sky is ours. Checklist completed. Ready to go.
Now, right now they've put up a lot of smoke here to cover the Marine site, but it works both ways, because this way the Marines are also protected by their smoke, which means that the T-72s have to come all the way up here before they can see the Marines, and the same way works for the Marines, which actually, in my opinion, works in the advantage of the Marines, because their AP power will be better, and their accuracy will be a lot better, so that they can actually take out the tank. While the T-72s, having to drive up here without being able to fire, are unable to put down some hurt on these Marines before they get here. Which means they're not as worried as they would be normally. F-18 took out one Shilka. Let's see if we can do that again. And right now it might work, and we might still get a total victory if we can get 400 or 300 points in a couple of minutes.
The captain and his crew welcome you aboard.
I still got a couple of these LVTPs, so I'm going to use those. Smalls are now working here. 250 points left.
The captain and his crew welcome you aboard.
These are resupplied except for a full complement of tows, but I'm not going to use those against the BTRs. Let's send in an F-18 against the BTR. It's a bit of an overkill, but any points will do.
Where do you need us, sir?
176 points, 150, 26, 100.
Checklist completed. Ready to go.
Now, these Avengers are parked too far in town to be able to do something.
Where do you need us, sir?
1 point left. And they took out a chopper. Which means that despite what I had expected, I still get a total victory. Which means that the enemy is going to be kicked out of this zone. And that completes it. We have a major victory. It wasn't what I was going for. I was hoping for a total victory. But because we got held up in Seoul and in Cheorwon, we had to take this as a major victory. Now, especially the last victory is one I'm very happy about, because it shows you how you can actually win without taking too much losses and without bringing in any reinforcements. So you can use this tactic, and I hope you really like this guide. Now, if you did like my videos, please remember to like and possibly subscribe to my channel. And if you have any questions or comments on how I could have done things better or what you should do in your campaign, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching and have good luck on the battlefield.